In 2013, Kenyans bade farewell to President Mwai Kibaki. His term had seen the birth of the country's Vision 2030, an overarching development blueprint that was aimed at transforming the country into a globally competitive, prosperous, and newly industrialized middle-income economy, and for which successive political regimes would benchmark their manifestos. KEPSA, the voice of the private sector in the country, was birthed in 2003 and has become a key partner in government's implementation of the country's Vision 2030 through several public-private dialogues and implementation of projects.
Through the Presidential Roundtable, the Parliamentary Roundtables, the Judiciary Roundtables, and the Ministerial Sectoral Forums, amongst others, the government and the private sector under KEPSA was able to come together and deliberate on policies, programs, and strategies that would propel Kenya's growth in all spheres.
Amekuwa amiri jeshi mkuu wa majeshi yote ya ulinzi ya Kenya.
As the change of guard took place in 2013, the pace had been set in political, social, and economic pillars of the vision for the new president, Uhuru Kenyatta, his administration, and the KEPSA fraternity. As we approach the end of President Kenyatta's term of service,
here is a sample of achievements of public-private dialogues, programs, and projects between KEPSA, government, and other stakeholders during the leadership of President Uhuru and his administration.
Under the economic pillar, infrastructure as the backbone of the country's transformation continued to witness massive growth. The expressway, the construction of the standard gauge railway, the Lamu port, bypasses, and the connecting road networks all across the country have had transformational impact on the lives of millions of Kenyans, businesses, and contributed immensely to soaring the country's competitiveness.
Mimi kwangu naona difference kubwa sana tangu mabarabara ijengwe, kwa sababu hata mbeleni tulikuwa tunaendea mizigo kwa huko mashambani, tukiendea watu wanakwambia sasa njua vile utapewa mizigo yako kwa sababu sisi hatuna misi. Na sasa hata ukinunulia customer anakwambia gari inakuja, tutaweka mizigo yako na ifike salama. Angari bodaboda zilikuwa zinaangusha watu kwa barabara sana. Lakini kwa sasa hata bodaboda zikitumwa siendee mizigo, sinaenda tu na few minutes, unaona tu mizigo yako imeingia kwa kasi yako.
I remember when someone was commuting from Rwaka to Denderu, the distance seemed very long. But now with the incoming of the bypass, the distance is very short. Also, when you look at the property side of it, it has really boomed. Finding that properties that were inaccessible before, right now they're accessible. So you find that property owners are actually enjoying their return on investment.
Right now I can sell as many plots as possible. I can get many rentals. I can do many rentals as possible because people are not fearing the roads. The roads are well done, they are well maintained.
First, I will say that I'm honored to have worked in the SGR project because you find that this is one of the largest projects we've ever had since our independence, 1963. SGR is able to employ a good number of local staffs. In total, the locomotive drivers cutting across Mombasa-Suswa line, we are a total of 173 locomotive drivers. The SGR, I can say, it has improved the Kenyan economy by around 1.5%.
We have just a single train that tracks 75 containers, that is 75 wagons, and it takes about 8 hours to be transported from Mombasa to Nairobi. That's quite a short time.
Increasing the network of this SGR will be a great achievement to achieve and to serve people better.
The conceptualization of the Nairobi-Nanyuki rail refurbishment was one of the major decisions that really has impacted the business environment in Nanyuki. Since we started delivering the product by rail, for every 15 trucks that drives on the road between Mombasa and Nanyuki, we have reduced that to 1 locomotive. In terms of accidents, we have mitigated road accidents. You do not expect any petroleum accident of a rail. It always has less negative impact than a truck, a tanker, petroleum tanker on the road. And we can only say thank you to our national government and the county governments for their good support for our business environment to flourish.
The initial idea was to make sure that SGR reaches Malaba. And I think that when this SGR reaches its destination as it was initially planned, it will be able to touch more lives.
We are talking in excess of 200,000 tons of cement that has gone to this high-value infrastructure project, SGR being our flagship project. Nairobi Expressway, we are part of the people who are supplying that. We are also involved in Thwake Dam, in Thiba Dam, in Mau Mau Road, in the various bypasses roads in Nairobi, the classrooms, CBC classrooms, CDF classrooms. We are now into low-cost homes.
The presidential directive that all cement used in the construction of the standard gauge railway and road constructions to be sourced locally increase the growth of cement factories across the country.
When we started, we were doing about 1.4, 1.5 million tons. Today our capacity is 2.4 million tons. We've recently commissioned our state-of-the-art vertical rotary mill. It is probably the only one in the region so far.
While the economic pillar's key agenda was being tackled, the social pillar that addressed health and education had to be propped up as well.
The president's response had already been swift and far-reaching.
Under the Linda Mama initiative,
hiyo wakati 2008 tulikuwa tunalipa pesa penye nilikuja hapa nikalipa ilikuwa 45 kwa saa hii penye Uhuru alisema ni bure, sijatoa bob hata shilingi na nimeshughulikiwa tu vizuri, sijaona ubaya.
Later on, the key medical scheme dubbed Wema wa Mkenya, a program that was to enable Kenyans to access affordable healthcare without financial hardship, was introduced. It later morphed into the universal healthcare under the Big Four agenda.
Kenyatta huko nilikuwa nakaa karibu hata siku 3 bila hata kupata mashine. Hii sasa kimaisha sasa naona vile ili effect kila kitu nilimaliza kwangu. Kausa kila kitu ng'ombe, sasa nikatoka kwangu nikakuja kuishi huko vile na kwa watoto. Sasa vile kitu chochote sikuwa nacho nilikuwa nimeisha kabisa. Sasa imekuwa rahisi, niko nyumbani hata ingawa nakaa naona maisha imebadilika kabisa. Nashukuru serikali sana.
Under education, KEPSA and government deliberated on transformation that would create more innovative workplace and business-ready graduates from across the education spectrum.
When I looked at the government bringing in CBC, it was a good thing because this is the future. So we started robotics because we wanted our learners definitely to have new innovation. And again, not only new innovation, but also to look at creativity of the children.
Robotics is important to help you become an innovator or a programmer or even part of the project work. I think it's important to help you have an open mind, help you to become more creative in what you do, and help you gain some confidence.
While the reskilling and health of the nation has improved in literal terms, the country still suffers from the corruption pandemic. In 2015, KEPSA sought the help of the president to fight corruption by introducing a private member's bill in Parliament that was enacted into the Bribery Act in 2016 to tame bribery and illicit trade.
Illicit trade is a big challenge for manufacturers, I would say globally, but also especially in third world countries and economies like ours.
So my definition of illicit trade is that products where the proper or requisite taxes have not been paid, and therefore it's getting to the consumer at a very cheap or a cheaper price. Second one is a product that is not adhering to the set standards by countries or by the regulators in terms of safety and quality or delivery to the consumer, and therefore can be harmful to anybody who consumes it. I think I'd say the first thing that the government has done is the introduction of, shall I call, electronic stamps that identify every brand to the manufacturer and to when it was produced and where it was produced, and also satisfies that that product is of right quality as well as it has paid the right taxes. The second thing is that the monitoring. I mean, if I talk about KRA or KEBS, they really are monitoring what is out there, what us as manufacturers are offering to the consumers. So that surveillance is good.
The task force on illicit trade has done well because the uncustomed goods, where there were duty factors, which was coming in uncustomed and hurting the local industries, has evened out to a very good extent. Misclassification of import code, Kenya Revenue has done very well because now they are going into detail. No doubt, the illicit trade in some way still exists, but it has reduced in the quantum that it used to be. So giving ourselves on industries an opportunity to do local production and grow our size.
Illicit trade is all about corruption because it's all about taking shortcuts, not following the rules, not following the system. And for that to happen, which we encourage, it takes many players. Obviously, there is the trader or the person who is willing to try and circumvent the system. And then there are a lot of players in the system who are also trying to make something on the side so that they can allow something to go through. I think it has been a challenge trying to get all of these things kind of transparent and visible. So I think things like digitizing help us to reduce the scope of corruption.
But the war on corruption went further by imploring government to adopt general digitalization across the board in order to facilitate business.
Watu walikuwa wamezoea kuja hapa hata saa 11. Mtu anapanga line na hata anangoja center ifunguliwe saa 2. So hii SBA inasaidia kumaliza hiyo mambo ya watu kuamka mapema, inawarahisishia Wakenya na kuwapatia hakikisho. Ukikuja wakati ambao umepewa appointment, wewe ndio tunakupatia priority number 1.
Huduma Center inatusaidia sana kwa sababu watu wako pale ni watu competent, alafu wako na direct communication na watu wa the KRA offices.
Huduma Center imesaidia sana kwa sababu kama sio hivyo ngibili pengine Nairobi kwenda kuangalia maneno, lakini hivyo ni kwamba Huduma Center hapa saa hii nimeonyeshwa kila kitu na nimeshukuru. Siwezi kutafuta tiketi ya kwenda mpaka huko. Kwa hiyo Huduma Center tunashukuru, inafanya kazi nzuri.
During the 8th presidential round table, the president took up the fast tracking of the digitization of government services. There was digitization of the land registry, digitization of security to facilitate resolution of business disputes and all.
One of the things I would say I have appreciated about this particular administration is that as a legal fraternity, there has been extreme transformation. Previously, attendance of court was purely physical. My clerk would have to leave the office with documents, bundles and bundles of documents, go to the registry, hope that the cashier is there, go to the banking hall, have it assessed. It was tedious. What digitization has done for us, not just even on this microcosm level, but on a larger scale, is that it has given us access to justice, it has given us access in terms of speed, it has created a lot of convenience. We have e-filing. What does e-filing mean? It means I can file my documents on a platform, and it doesn't matter what time it is. So I'm not filing between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. when the cashier is there, when government office is open. Afisasa in itself is still a system that has hitches, but in its full conceptualization is a beautiful system that if I am a property owner, there will never be any doubt as regards the ownership of that property. We as a fraternity are able to conveniently do our business. We are able to grow. We are living in the present times of digitization, and we are not stuck in the past. So what I'd say is thank you, and I would hope that the next administration takes lessons from this and sees then how we can be better as a country, purely on the bedrock of digitization.
The net result was that Kenya's global ranking in the ease of doing business rose 80 places in 6 years, from position 136 in 2015 to 56 in 2021.
While these investors had sought the president's attention to address some of the challenges in the cost of production and along the supply chains, they got the attention of the president differently, as he challenged them to demonstrate how they were promoting linkages with SMEs and traders in their value chains, local content input supplies, access to markets, and affordable financing opportunities.
Within 2 weeks, several multinationals and large local enterprises made investment and expansion commitments to the president worth over $3.6 billion.
Isuzu East Africa committed to invest $1 billion to upgrade its assembly plant, thereby increasing its labor force by 12%, trained over 3,000 Juakali mechanics, and engaged about 20 new SME service centers. Bidco Africa Limited promised to set up 4 factories by December 2019, and upon completion created many jobs for our youth.
As the private sector sought to scale up local inputs in their value chains, the president and his administration ignited a process of integrating the Juakali sector into the huge government-funded program dubbed Boma Yangu for affordable housing products.
My involvement in affordable housing came when the Office of the President officials visited Kariobangi Light Industries. They visited our workshops. They saw what we were doing, what we were able to fabricate, and they were interested. And so they promised to give us some work for the government. We produced almost about 10% of all these, because we did all the steel doors, all the wooden doors, and frames, and we did the fabrication. We also installed them.
Hiyo pesa yenye nilikuwa nalipwa imeweza kunisomeshea watoto at least, na siwezi sema haikunisaidia juu ni kazi yenye imenisaidia na ina promote bado, na najua bado tutaendelea kuifanya.
Siku hizi tunakaa makao mazuri, tunakaa nyumba nzuri. Zamani hatukuwa na choo, tulikuwa na tupa, lakini siku hizi hatutupi. Choo imetengenezwa, choo ya kisasa, choo mzuri, ili unafurahia maisha kulingana vile miaka yangu iko. Nafurahia kwa upande wa serikali kabisa.
Nashukuru sana kwa sababu ya serikali ambayo imeweza kukumbuka askari ya magereza. Nakumbuka wakati nilisajiliwa huko nyuma niliweza kupata manyumba ya matope, wakati baadaye tena ikakuja manyumba ya mapati ambayo ilikuwa mbaya sana, kwa hali ya kufanya kazi ilikuwa mbaya sana, lakini wakati serikali imeweza kutukumbuka tunashukuru, maana saa hizi tunaweza kufanya kazi kwa wakati nzuri na masingara ambayo tunafanyia kazi ni mzuri sana.
With the growth of local industries, there was increased demand for reliable and affordable energy.
This is a petroleum depot called Nanyuki Vivo Energy Nanyuki Petroleum Depot, where we store petroleum products ranging from PMS, we have diesel, we have avgas, we have lubricants, we have aviation products that are stored over here. We have a capacity of 11.5 million liters, a capacity that is able to supply about 8 counties within Mount Kenya, starting from Nyeri, going to Laikipia, and all the other counties.
Once power was made available, the raw material sources had to be invigorated to meet the expected surge in demand. The country's generation and transmission system planning has been based on the 20-year Rolling Least Cost Power Development Plan, or the LCPDP 2017 to 2037. During the public-private dialogue sessions with the energy team, both government and private sector set out to invigorate green energy extraction and increase Kenya's power output to 3,000 megawatts. The development of the feed-in tariff policy in 2013 made it possible for increased investment in the renewable energy space in Kenya, which in turn boosted the share of green energy in the national energy mix. There has been an increased access to electricity penetration from 2.3 million connections in 2013 to 8.2 million by the end of April 2021, thereby achieving electricity access rates of over 75%.
Kuna kitu ambacho kimetusaidia sana ni last mile ya serikali ya Uhuru. Kwa sababu hii imetusaidia sana kwa sababu kuweka stima bila hii last mile ilikuwa inagharimu mtu kitu around 70,000 kuendelea juu. Sasa hii inatufaidi sana kwa sababu sasa kama ni hii ya last mile ujue iko tofauti sana na ile ingine ya kitambo ile ya kulipa mwisho wa mwezi. Kwa sababu sasa hii kama ni ya token unalipia chenye umetumia.
In the ease of getting electricity indicator of the Doing Business Index, Kenya has indeed improved by 81 places from position 151 globally in 2015 to position 70 in 2020, giving most businesses the confidence to set up in proximity to the source of their raw materials, hence reducing the cost of transportation.
Nashukuru president wetu sana juu ya hii maji. Wakati ilifanywa corrugation, kuanzia wakati ilifanywa mpaka saa hii, hakika tumefurahi sana. Juu zamani tukirudi background ya zamani, wakati kulikuwa na matope, tulikuwa ninakuja mimi kwa sababu mzee hako karibu, ninakuja tuko na mtu wa kazi, tunakaa kama siku 5 hakuna maji. Lakini wakati huu mimi naleta machini, tunapea maji, hakuna magonjwa. Zamani tulikuwa tunagojeka.
At the same time, institutionalization of the warehouse receipt system has improved commodity storage, curbed value chain inefficiencies, reduced post-harvest losses, increased earnings for farmers and traders. This has enabled farmers to use their warehouse receipt as possible collateral to access credit from participating financial institutions and trade in commodity markets.
Kilimo inanisaidia maana napokea pesa katika kila 2 weeks ninapata pesa. Kwa hivyo inatusaidia. Hatusubui watoto maana kabla ya wiki 2 tunapata pesa.
The president's desire had been to see the revitalization and reformation of the different entities that were and are owned by government under the Parastatal Reform Initiative. KEPSA had identified this need under PPDS by stating the president and the government's objective was to have leaner, more efficient and effective public enterprises that produce tangible, quick results for Kenyans.
In 2013, one of the president's first acts was to commission a task force to look into the whole question of parastatals. Why weren't they giving the returns that Kenyans expected? Challenges of parastatals were identified long before President Kenyatta. And those challenges tend to revolve, if you want to encapsulate them in one word, governance. But in that word, you get things like patronage, procurement scams, interference from various quarters, all these things. I have experienced President Kenyatta's passion for the country, for making the state-owned enterprises run well. I've experienced his backing for the reforms that we undertook at Kenya Pipeline. In fact, he's the one who conceived of the idea of Kenya Pipeline, helping government to help the rehabilitation and revival of railways. of Kenya Pipeline helping government to drive the rehabilitation of Kisumu Port, where again pipeline and ports and railways have worked very closely together. So that level of attention to the potential and the capability of what state corporations can do is really astounding. I've seen his strong interest, in fact obsession really, with railways, with Kenya Power and Lighting, the steps that have been taken in the last 2-3 years to revamp, revive, rehabilitate and drive KPLC forward. If these corporations were owned by private equity and people of between 15 and 30%, if only we achieve 15%, the asset base of Kenya Railways, Kenya Ports and Kenya Pipeline is, if memory serves right, about $1 trillion, $1.2 trillion. 10% is 120 billion. Now you're talking some serious money.
With parastatal reforms already taking root, the president turned his attention to economic diplomacy. During his 10-year rule, the president, and in many cases with support of KEPSA, hosted over 10 heads of state. Several economic conferences were held over the 10 years, including TICAD, GES, UNCTAD, and other out-of-country forums in China, Japan, and Europe.
At this particular point, GES is one of the major platforms for local startups and local entrepreneurs to compete and showcase what they can do on a global scale.
I would definitely urge the government to make sure that it should keep on trying to host such summits, and that would encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to pop up. And the fact that this entrepreneurship summit itself would offer a lot of advantages for those entrepreneurs who are in the making, because in terms of finance and such, so that itself would jointly develop the country on its own.
Let's cooperate. She's injured behind her. Hi man. What's your name? What's your name?
But the last 10 years have not been always joyful and triumphant. There were many dark moments that the president and his administration had to walk through. Kenyans remember sadly 3 hideous terrorist attacks, the first being Westgate, the second Garissa, and finally the Dusit 2. The famine of 2017 and 2018 were particularly tough times for Kenya. KEPSA was at hand as we helped to mobilize Kenyans to uplift our fellow countrymen.
Chagua mtu wa kisawasawa.
The Kenya Daima initiative and launch have helped to cool down political rhetoric during the transitions of 2013 and the 2 elections of 2017. The president and Kenyans from all walks of life closed ranks and came together and emerged stronger. We improved our surveillance and tracking systems, and our forces have been more alert and alive to the dangers posed by terrorism.
In that regard, President Uhuru Kenyatta's government established the physical infrastructure installation and operationalization of the Integrated Command, Control and Communication Center, also known as IC3, to provide ICT business solutions to both police and Kenyans. The impact and transformation in the health sector was evident in the government's response during the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020. KEPSA launched a project with a true human face dubbed the Wheels for Life program to assist expectant mothers to access hospitals and other health services during curfew hours.
Sasa wakati ilifika wakati wake wa kujifungua na ikafanyika ikawa ni usiku, so ikabidi tupigie Wheels of Hope na walitusaidia. Akatupeleka mpaka Mbagathi, na tukiwa tuko Mbagathi, ametufikisha Mbagathi, tukadhani atatuitisha pesa. Hakutuitisha, alituambia sawa, hiyo imelipwa tayari, na mkifika hapo Mungu awajalie.
Tunashukuru Mungu tuliweza kuenda hosi, at least hosi mzuri, ile kuna facilities, tukapata mtoto vizuri. Alizaliwa na 2.7 kg. After 1 month walinipigia tena kuniuliza kama nilifaulu nini, kaniambia congratulations.
So the idea for Wheels for Life came in through I believe God's grace, because I was doing a maternal mortality audit. It was in that time when the curfew was actually up to 7 p.m. and I noted that many women were dying from preventable causes, and the preventable causes being bleeding. I knew something had to be done. So we quickly connected the call center. KEPSA came in with the 1196, and it was a business allocated number. The next 2 days of publicizing just on WhatsApp, we had gotten, I think, over 300 calls from women. We had dispatched, I think, 15 vehicles across the night, and we had already started seeing very quickly the impact that this could have.
The setting up of the 300-bed Nairobi Hospital COVID Center in less than 6 months was a major game changer. Working together with our manufacturing firms, we spurred local production of personal protective equipment, also known as PPEs. This involved reconfiguration of factories and production lines to produce PPEs with a daily capacity of over 1 million meters of polypropylene and the provision of over 240,000 liters of ethanol for production of hand sanitizers. This fast response enabled all Kenyans access to PPEs, especially face masks, at a lower cost, and eventually Kenya became a net exporter into the region, thus opening new opportunities for businesses in the apparel industry and sustained employment. At the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic, KEPSA, in collaboration with her members in the agriculture sector, launched the Flowers of Hope project, where they gave away flowers to Kenya's existing and new markets in Europe and later to local hospitals. This saved over 200,000 jobs in the floriculture industry, ensured continuity of operations, and retained the markets, hence faster rebound of the sector after most countries reopened. In partnership with KHF and MOH, the private sector vaccination initiative has successfully administered over 95,000 vaccines across all counties since the rollout commenced on 8 September 2021. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, KEPSA has worked closely with government and other partners to cushion Kenyans and businesses, particularly micro, small and medium enterprises, against the adverse effects of the global COVID-19 pandemic. These include provision of short-term interest-free business support loans through the COVID-19 Recovery and Resilience Program.
At the peak whereby I'm stuck, I can't go to a bank, I can't go anywhere, so I called one of my mentors. She told me there is a loan whereby people are getting interest-free loans. The loan came in handy because I was able to move into a new location where we are, and I was able to increase on the inputs, the machines. I was also able to market.
As of September 2021, 106 SMEs had benefited from the loan financing, amounting to Kenya shillings 42 million out of the over 700 applications received. The government launched the Digital Economy Strategy Blueprint in 2019, and this is a framework to improve Kenya's digital economy. So far, 40% of private enterprises have engaged in e-commerce, and 70% of all e-commerce payments in the country are settled through various mobile money platforms like PayPal, M-Pesa, etc., hence improving the business environment.
Over the last 10 years of KEPSA's partnership with the government of President Uhuru, KEPSA endeavored to implement several projects and programs that have been close to the President's heart. These include the Kenya Youth Empowerment Project, known as AJIRA, and the Women Promotion Initiatives, amongst many others.
In the last 1 year, our survey shows that 1.2 million Kenyans had accessed online jobs. Through our private sector engagement under AJIRA, a total of 39,590 youth have been linked to digital and digitally enabled jobs through various partnerships that have been established with different BPOs, online work platforms, the gig economy, e-commerce, as well as small and medium enterprises.
Do people know the power of these digital platforms? Do they know that they exist? So it is Ajira supporting the digital platforms that simplifies those capabilities and brings that power to the small business.
Ajira provides that foundation where you're able to tap that expertise that I needed. For example, if I'm doing a spatial plan and I needed 10 experts digitally, and I'm able to plug them from that, it reduces my costs tremendously down. It's a good initiative, especially for SMEs who are not able to afford.
The digitization of government services has enabled the tax returns compliance rate to grow from 3 million to 5 million Kenyans.
We introduced this thing about the iTax and doing the returns, and we have been doing those things perfectly. So it was a benefit to us and also a benefit to the government, because now majority of Kariobangi Jua Association members, the traders, and also those with the workshops, the big workshops that are producing a lot of things, now they are doing the returns to the KRA.
In the next few months, President Kenyatta, his administration and KEPSA will conclude an incredible 10 years of collaboration and celebrate these amazing milestones in the journey towards Vision 2030 actualization. 11,000 kilometers of road, new and refurbished ports in Lamu, Mombasa and Kisumu, and 729 kilometers of standard gauge railway line and refurbished meter gauge railways to Nanyuki and Kisumu. Foundations for changes in education sector, TVETs, and new outlook in health sector. The legislation of anti-corruption laws, war on illicit trade, and general digitization across government and judiciary. Huge improvements in local value chain addition in our manufacturing sectors and investment in local SMEs by foreign multinationals, onboarding of the Jua Kali into mega government projects like affordable housing. Huge strides in power generation and distribution, foundations and beginnings of parastatal reforms, and support for KEPSA sector-led projects, youth, women, and the vulnerable. But more remains outstanding. The drive towards Vision 2030, which is only 8 years away, means that the Kenya Private Sector Alliance has already prepared a manifesto with 5 priority thematic areas, which are: 1. Spurring jobs and inclusive wealth creation by leveraging digital technology and creating vast digital and digital-enabled opportunities across a range of sectors. 2. Deepening social transformation to bridge inequalities through the provision of equitable access to quality health and education services, continuous development and investment in the security sector, development of a reliable public transport system, government support to establish modernized markets in all towns and cities. 3. Enhancing governance and economic stability. Working with government to continue to leverage technology and implement efficiency-focused interventions to increase transparency and accountability and create efficient delivery of public services through various measures. 4. Investing in cutting-edge innovation and research and development. By unlocking innovation, adequate skills development and educational advancements required to facilitate transformative research and development across sectors and spur innovation. Finally, creating a globally competitive business environment by supporting government to foster a globally competitive business environment that addresses both the cost of starting a business and the growth of enterprise in Kenya. The interventions to be undertaken to improve Kenya's business competitiveness and tax administration are: 1. Formulation of simple tax for SMEs. 2. Reduction of licenses to 1 business license. 3. Creation of a Ministry of Economy and Investment. 4. Urgently develop new tax laws. And 5. Enforcement of tax evasion regulation.
We would like to thank the President and also the government for giving us this opportunity in order to ensure that these operations are continuing. And we hope that also in the future we'll get support in order to continue these operations, and that the railway sector will not come to a stop just because his era is ending.
So from the industry and on behalf of the industry, I'll tell him thank you very much. We continue to really grow in country and deliver to all our stakeholders. And some of the things I can personally attribute to him. So I tell him thank you. And as he retires, I also wish that he stays connected with our industry. I'm sure he is. So Mr. President, have a great retirement, and always remember what you do with your right hand, I know what you do with your left. So thank you very much.
We are very happy with him. We have worked there and we are seeing the benefit or the fruits of the government. Before, we didn't have any money from the government or any contract from the government. But the little we have tested there, we say thanks to the Lord. And then we are praying another president will come to continue with that motto, to Yov, Wakali of Kenya.
As KEPSA and indeed the entire Kenyan population prepares to bid goodbye to President Kenyatta, we again celebrate the leadership that he has been able to accord us. The partnership and goodwill that President Kenyatta and his government was able to extend to the business community has allowed us to build a formidable legacy together under the banner of Kenya's Vision 2030. Ours is to say Asante and wish him well in his future pursuits as he continues to serve Kenya. Meanwhile, KEPSA eagerly looks forward to working with the next president of Kenya in carrying on and completing the work of building a prosperous, peaceful, and successful enterprise that is Kenya, the country we all love.